Aloha and welcome everyone. We're going to be beginning in a few moments. Those of you entering the room now, welcome. We're going to be starting very shortly. Aloha everyone. Aloha everyone. We're going to be getting started very shortly, so just stay tuned. Aloha everyone and welcome to our Warrior webinar. Today we'll be talking about our student housing and the student housing experience. We'll also have a great Q&A session at the end. Just a few housekeeping things before we start. Today's format is webinar style, which means that you can see us, but we cannot see you. All the mics have been muted. The chat has also been disabled, so please place your questions in the Q&A feature. For the Q&A, we encourage you to place all of your questions in the Q&A tab specifically. If you see a question that is similar to yours, if you could please use the upvote so we can get to the most popular questions first. You don't need to re-ask a similar question, just use that upvote button. This session is going to be recorded and posted to our YouTube page within 48 hours. It will also be sent to you in a thank you email after the webinar tomorrow. Just a look in the weeks ahead, we are going to be having a parents Q&A on April 6th. It will be at 2 p.m. Hawaii time. Definitely tell your parents to join. You can also join, but that will be specifically geared towards our parents and any questions that they may have. Again, this will be April 6th at 2 p.m. You'll receive an invitation probably the week beforehand with how to join. So today, joining us, fortunately, we have Dr. Kenny Lopez. He is the Assistant Director for Residential Academic Initiatives and Assessment. So we're very fortunate to have him here today to go over housing experience, and to help answer all of your questions that you have. Thank you, Kenny, for joining us today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kristen, for that introduction. Aloha and welcome everyone for our webinar Wednesday to chat a little bit more about student housing services. So I have, I believe, shared my screen with all of you. So in this, I want to start with first going through our website to show you some important, useful information as you are all making the decision to apply to live on campus in student housing. So we'll do that portion here for a few minutes, and then we'll transition over to answering all of your burning questions that you all may have, and I hope to be able to answer those for the largest portion of our hour here together. So to begin, folks can see this is our landing page for our Student Housing Services website. So the URL is manoa.hawaii.edu/housing. And once you get there, you'll get to this page. So the important pieces, we'll talk you through some of those. So the first one is apply. So once you have committed to come to Manoa, once you have submitted your SIR and filled out all your paperwork, then you will apply for housing. Here you'll be able to see the academic year 2022-23 application. Some of the important rates, dates, and meal plan information will all be here available for you. And we'll talk through that in just a second. Under additional information, so you'll see some terms and conditions for your contract with us, a list of priorities. So this is established by the Board of Regents, determining how you get placed, frequently asked questions, customized communities, RLPs, and then disability accommodations. So before we jump into some of those pieces, I will share this one, which is our residential learning programs. As part of living on campus, you have the option to select one of these residential learning programs. So currently we have 12 available for our students, and these range from a variety of different disciplines. So academic focused to special interest or cultural based. So for example, we have our College of Natural Sciences, Shidler College of Engineering, Education, Engineering, Travel Industry Management, Health Professions, so on and so forth. Honors, Halipa'akea, which is our Native Hawaiian themed community, Filipino language and culture, Japanese language and culture, Rainbow Village, and Ellis Ball. So here you can see that. So selecting to be part of one of these communities is at no additional cost. To the student, they just have to simply select it in their application. One of the benefits of living in a residential learning program is that you'll have an opportunity to live with other students who have similar academic, cultural, or special interests as yourself. We have faculty engagement, so faculty will come in to do study sessions, study hall, midterm prep, finals prep, all of those things that you will get very individualized in these communities versus other communities where you won't get that individualized attention. Additionally to that, you have your academic advisors will come to your hall to do academic advising twice. So once during the fall semester, once during the spring semester. So very much geared towards helping you bridge that curricular and that co-curricular experience that you'll have with us. Go ahead and go back. So you all can find those programs there on our website under the residential learning programs. So here you'll see some important dates. We'll go through those really quickly as well. So for folks coming in, May 1st is an important deadline. All housing applications must be received by May 1st, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. in order for students to be able to be guaranteed housing for the next academic year. And then here, additionally, you will be able to see our rates. So our rates are already changed and established for the 22-23 year. So you'll be able to see here, depending on the type of community you're looking for, so on and so forth, what those costs are. So folks will be able to see that. So up next, I'm going to spend the majority of my time on this tab here, which is our communities tab. So this will show you all of the residence halls that we have on campus. So the first one that we have is our Hale Aloha Towers. So we have Lehua, Ilima, Mokihana, and Lokilani. All four towers are reflective images of one another. So they're all fairly identical. They're all 12 stories. And if you click on Learn More, you'll be able to see a lot more information about our towers. For example, you'll see that all four of the towers are named after the flowers of the main islands, the four main islands. So the Big Island of Hawaii Island, Oahu, Kauai, and Maui. You'll be able to see the specific breakdowns or demographics of each one of the towers. So there's 260 residents that live in each one of the towers. They are all co-ed. They are all first-year students. So we have 10 residential floors per building. We also have a large lounge on the top, have a kitchen, a study space, as well as the laundry facility is up there. You'll be able to see the furnishings that make up the room. So these are all twin extra long beds. You'll have a desk, a chair, a closet, dresser, shelves, wired as well as wireless internet in our buildings. There are 2 elevators, community laundry, community kitchen, lounges, Wi-Fi, as well as key access. So you'll be able to see that. If you keep scrolling down further, these images are pretty cool. You're able to click and drag and see all the different parts of the residence hall room. These desks here are built in because, as you can tell, the buildings are circular. So they are built in, so those cannot move, but you are able to click and drag to see the different components of the room. As I mentioned, all 4 towers are reflective images of one another, so you'll be able to see those through that. If we click down, you'll be able to see the walking distance to the Hawai'i Aloha cafeteria, to the market, to Gateway Caf, as well as Campus Center food court. So I focus specifically on Hawai'i Aloha, as that is where the vast majority of our first year students will live. There are also other communities where our first years may live as well, and that is Johnson Hall. So I will go into that here as well for folks. So Johnson Hall is 2 separate buildings, 3 stories in height. So we have Johnson Hall A and Johnson Hall B. So you can see Johnson Hall houses about 191 residents. So these are all classes of students. So we have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors who do live in these buildings. So they are pretty unique in that capacity. They are right across the street from our College of Engineering. So a lot of our engineering students really, really like to live in this community. And again, you're able to click and drag and see the different layouts of these spaces for yourself. You're able to see the distance to different dining facilities, Gateway Caf, Hawai'i Aloha Caf, the market, as well as Campus Center. So the remaining, let's see, Hale-Kahawaii and Lalima are additionally also first-year communities. So I'll highlight those here very quickly as well. They're 2 separate communities. So this is Hale-Kahawaii here on the left, Lalima on the right, and you'll be able to see essentially the building makeup of those 156 residents, 160 co-ed, undergrad, but all class of students can live in those communities. And then here you'll be able to kind of click and drag as well, as we kind of showed you, to see those specific buildings. And then I will very quickly go over a few more buildings. So Wainani is our apartment community. So this is for sophomores and above only. So what we use to determine that is what year you graduated high school. If you are graduating high school in 2022, you're going to be considered a freshman, regardless of how many AP, IB, college credits you've received already. You're considered a freshman because you graduated 2022. If you graduated 21 and took a gap year or some other, are returning back to school, then you're considered a non-freshman for our purposes. Freer Hall, as well as Gateway, as we mentioned, are for upper class students. So those are non-freshman communities. And Freer Hall is one of the only spaces on campus that does have air conditioning. So that is something to note. It is also a little bit pricier than most of the other communities. So I encourage folks to look at the rates sheet so that you're able to have that understanding before you apply for specific communities. Just a few more things that we'll go over here very quickly for folks. This one I think is pretty significant, so I'll highlight it. This is a what to bring list. So what to bring when you're coming to campus, right? So you're like, what do I need to bring with me? What are the items that I can buy when I come to campus? So we have a few suggestions on here for things to prepare. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the beds are twin extra long, so be prepared with twin extra long sheets. Most of our buildings do not have air conditioners. So as we mentioned, a fan is sufficient. Just open your window, put a fan up, and you'll be just fine. Let's see, other things that are significant. Let's see, microwaves, right? Microwaves are important, certainly as for all college students, but as a reminder that they must be 700 watts or less and be FCC rated in order for you to bring them into your residence hall. Mini fridges, also please note it's 1 per room, and those need to be 4.5 cubic feet or smaller in order to be compliant for our residence halls. Surge protectors, please bring surge protectors, certainly very, very useful. Do not bring extension cords, those unfortunately are not allowed. So some of the personal toiletries, shower caddies, first aid kit, hangers. We encourage everyone to use blue tape if you're going to hang up things on your walls, posters, paintings, photographs of home, things like that. Certainly blue tape is the best thing to do for those. Here's a list of things that are prohibited or not allowed on campus. As I mentioned, extension cords, air conditioners, any sort of temporary lighting, Christmas lights, twinkle lights, LED lights, all of those stuff are not allowed on campus because of the fire danger that is associated with them. So you can see the list of items there. Other things that we'll like to note, please make sure that you are not shipping items to campus a little too early because we just physically don't have the capacity to store all the items. So we encourage folks to please ship their items to get here no earlier than 7 days prior to your arrival on campus. And again, that will be very helpful for us to make sure that we are able to store it, get it ready for you to pick it up once you arrive on campus. We do have all of the standard delivery companies do work here. So Amazon, UPS, USPS, FedEx, all of those places work just fine. So students can have their packages sent here and we can certainly give them to you once you arrive on campus. The other really neat option that we have provided is a link here, which is our linen program. This is called On-Campus Marketing, which is an opportunity for parents or students to buy linens that will be here on campus ready for you for your arrival. So you don't have to go out to Target or Bath and Body Works or any of those other places to get your items that will already be on campus for you. You just pick up your box and all your items will be there ready for you. All right, so you go back to this tab and then we will shift over to answering more questions since I'm sure you all have quite a bit of questions and we'll be more than happy to answer those. So we have here you'll see our frequently asked questions. So please, I would encourage folks to look through these. Please note that the years may be off because we still have students who are living with us, but you'll be able to see our responses to different components on, for example, COVID. What happens if I test positive on campus, or what are some rules in place to help keep us safe on campus? Some of those pieces will all be found on this website. Okay. Yeah, I think that covers it for the most part with some of these pieces. So I'll stop sharing my screen and then we'll start by answering folks' questions and then we'll certainly go back to the website if we need to.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kenny. That was very helpful. Just before we get into the Q&A, I just wanted to share some of our contact information. So if you'd like to get in touch with us after today's session, either with the admissions office, housing, financial aid, or you're just looking to find out who your advisor is, here is some of our most helpful contact information. We will try to get to everyone's questions as fast as we can, but if we by chance don't get to your question, don't hesitate to contact us so we can help you that way. So I'm just gonna look at the questions. I see they're all rolling in. So Kenny, first question, when do we find out what dorm or residence hall we have?
So again, as we mentioned, if the priority deadline is on May 1st, so we will not touch any applications till after May 1st. So after May 1st, we will send you out a contract that essentially says you are being offered housing. Please pay your deposit. Please do all of these different pieces. That's when you'll be able to be confirmed into your residence hall space. So it's very important to please don't book any flights or any travel for move-in until that has been done, because you could be moved residence hall or different community, and we are not unfortunately able to allow anyone to move in earlier. So again, that all the communication will start rolling out in mid-May for that.
Great. The next few are about our residential learning programs. First question, how many or what percentage of students go into residential learning programs versus going to general housing?
Sure. So residential learning programs are going to be smaller, certainly, because we only have 12 of them, and the spaces are also very limited for them. They are very competitive to get into, so that's why I encourage folks to certainly look at them, and if there's anything that interests you, certainly click those as options. What we will do normally is if you can't get into one, for example, you want to get into the College of Natural Sciences, but unfortunately it is full, but you're able to go into honors because you're part of the honors program. We will certainly put you in the honors RLP instead of the NatSci one. That's an example of, can you apply for more than one? You can, but you will only be selected into one of those communities. So again, it is not a all-inclusive list of RLPs, but we certainly want to have a small number, but a very strong number of really well-developed RLPs.
Great. And then can students be in more than one residential learning program?
Unfortunately, you can only live in one spot unless you want to pay for 2 spots. I'm just playing. No, so you can only be a part of one.
Great. Another student asked, I thought most students or freshmen were in the towers. How does that affect, or how does the learning program affect that?
Sure. So most freshmen or first year students are living in Haliloha Towers. So as I mentioned, a lot of our RLPs are in Haliloha for that exact reason. So in Haliloha, we will have honors, health professions, College of Natural Sciences, College of Education, travel industry management, as well as business. So those will all be in the Haliloha residence halls for that very reason that we want. We saw the students were having that dilemma of a RLP or living a traditional first year experience. So for that reason, we've moved some of those communities over to Haliloha for that very reason. So the other communities will still have a traditional first year experience, but we have them placed in Johnson because we do value having freshmen live with sophomores and so on and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you. Another student asked, when was the last renovation of the freshman residence halls?
That was 2010.
Great. Thank you. And then another question, how or can I choose my own roommate?
You can choose your own roommate, and there's going to be a few caveats that I'm going to give you here. So you can absolutely choose your own roommate. I encourage you, if they are your best friend or a very close friend, that you please don't choose to live with them, and I'll explain why. I think unless you have physically lived with them, I think it is very different than just them being your really good friend that you spend a lot of time together. And so for that reason, we encourage you to fill out the applications kind of concurrently so you can put the same buildings, but that you won't be roommates. So for some reason, your roommate is great, but you just don't click at that level. You can still go over to your best friend who lives just a few doors down or in the next building over. So we strongly encourage that. If you are randomly meeting someone at one of these events that you want to room with, what needs to happen is when you fill out your housing applications, you must put all their information into your application and they need to put yours. All of your preferences, because you'll have an opportunity to do 3 preferences, all those preferences need to be identical in order for us to prioritize that roommate pairing. And again, it is a preference, it is not guaranteed.
Great, thank you. And another student was asking, can a sophomore room with a freshman?
No, unless you live in Johnson, for example, or a mixed community. If you live in Halialoha, the answer is no, because that is an only freshman community. So the answer is no, but unless you live in one of the other communities, then yes.
Okay. Next question is, when could we expect an email with our housing contract if we have already sent in our application?
Sure, that will typically be, as I mentioned, in mid to late May. So I strongly encourage folks to please check your Hawaii email regularly. I know it's not ideal for folks because you have graduation, proms, family vacations, all of that jazz, but it is very important for you to check it regularly, as things from specifically housing are going to be very time sensitive. You will have about 2.5 weeks to respond. And if you don't respond, you completely removed from that process and have to start all over again. So if you wanted an RLP, if you wanted a specific building, you're going to be at the bottom of that list if you don't respond. So strongly encourage folks to please check your email addresses regularly. And unfortunately, it only goes to our students.
Perfect. And another student asked, on the website for dorm prices, does that only reflect for semester or for the full year?
That is for academic year. The only thing that you will have to add on to that is the meal plan. So the meal plan prices, you will be able to see those there as well. Those are different, and we don't include those because there are a variety of different options that each student can choose. Meal plans range from 7 meals a week to 19 meals a week. The average standard one is 14 meals a week. So for that very reason, we don't include that already in there because you have a variety of different options you can pick.
Great. And then I have a few people asking about breaks, so I'm going to combine these
Sure.
questions. Will students be able to stay in the residence halls during winter and spring break holidays, as well as summer breaks, say for students that it might be hard to go home for the summers? And then how does the meal plan work during those breaks?
Sure. So for Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, all of our residence halls remain completely open. So a student comes in August and does not have to move out until May. So we are open year round. In terms of meal plan is only going to be offered when class is in session. So if we have winter break, for example, is a time that the dining halls are not open. So that is a time that students will have to either potluck with folks on the floor, go off campus to get food, some of those items. For spring break, we do have cafeterias open. It is just going to be a little bit more limited service. So we have brunch and dinner. And for every other time, it is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's some of the differences. In terms of summer, we typically, pre-COVID, have had a pretty robust summer operation. So students are able to stay with us for the summer if they choose to do so. It is just a different contract that you have to sign and pay into.
Thank you. Next, we have some questions about the bathrooms.
Mhm.
How often are the community bathrooms cleaned? And
Mhm.
then what are the bathrooms like in the freshman towers?
Sure. So all of the restrooms across campus, with the exception of Kahawai and La Lima, are pod style bathrooms. So pod style bathrooms refers to the sense of similar to what you have in your home. You walk in, you lock the door, and you have the toilet, the sink, and the shower all in that space. So you will not share it with another person at the same time. So those are cleaned by our custodial staff twice a day, and all high touch spaces are sanitized multiple times throughout the day. So that's how they function. So we have 2 different pods of bathrooms. So 4 different essentially bathrooms per floor. And students can also go up or down if they need to use a restroom if for some reason the one on their floors are full.
Perfect. And then there are a few questions regarding meal plans. When do students need to select their meal plans? When will that be available? And is it required to have a meal plan if you live on campus?
If you live in any community excluding the Holly Wainani apartments, you are required to have a meal plan. In Wainani, you don't need to because you have your own kitchen in your unit. So this typically comes up because folks are like, I have pretty significant dietary restrictions or food allergies, things like that. And we certainly understand those. I would encourage folks to please contact our dietitian. Her name is Donna. She works with Sodexo, and she is fantastic, and their staff is fantastic at working with students who have dietary restrictions or food allergies to prepare and have food available and ready that is both nutritious and safe for the students to eat. Meal plans can be chosen when you fill out your housing application, I believe, or if not, you can just reach out to our housing email address and we can certainly add that on to you. If students do not request one, they will automatically be defaulted into the 14 meals a week.
You may have covered this, but again, are there full kitchens in the residence halls like the freshman towers for students to use, including microwaves?
There are. So every community has a full kitchen. It could be on either the basement or the roof. So students will just have to go up there to use those. They have stove, oven, microwave, sink, and full-size fridge. They don't have dishwashers, but everything else is there.
Great. And is there a quarantine required before moving into campus?
Currently, there is not. So we are now talking, so it is March 23rd. So currently there is not a quarantine requirement. However, that is subject to change. I would encourage folks to stay abreast of state regulations and rules as we get closer. But there is a vaccination requirement for living on campus. So all students who live on campus must be fully vaccinated, which means for us, 2 doses of Pfizer, 2 doses of Moderna, plus 14 days, or the single dose Johnson & Johnson plus 14 days. For students who are also either requesting a religious or medical exemption, there are also opportunities and available for students. But I would encourage folks to please work with our health services to get that all squared away before coming to campus. If that requirement is not met, you will absolutely not be allowed to move on to campus.
Perfect, thank you. There are a lot of questions, so I might be bouncing around a little, but back to learning communities. Do communities have different housing options, or are the communities together in certain residences?
So we have put them together in certain residence halls. So for example, Haliloha Lokilani will have all of them for the Haliloha Towers, and Johnson will have them for Johnson Hall, for example. Reason being is you'll be able to have other people on floors above or below you who are going to share some very similar experiences as yourself. So that is why we have paired them very intentionally in those capacities.
Thank you. Another student asks, are we allowed to bring our own mattress, or can we use or do we need to use the provided mattress?
You unfortunately have to use a provided mattress. Reason being, again, for fire safety reasons, you have to use the ones in your space, but you're absolutely able to deck it out as much as you want. You can do like the acorns, the memory foams, the Tempur-Pedics, all that stuff that you want to on top of it, but you unfortunately have to use a mattress that's provided for you.
Perfect. And then which appliances are allowed in the residence halls? Example, mini fridge, air fryer, everyone's favorite microwave, and which appliances are prohibited?
Sure. So all of those things that you mentioned are allowed. Things that are not allowed is anything with an open heating element. So a George Foreman grill, a toaster, for example, some of those things that something can easily fall into it and catch it on fire are not allowed. So I would encourage folks to go back to that list of what to bring, what not to bring, and you can see a pretty almost exhaustive list of what you cannot bring to campus.
Thank you. And then another student asks, how do we select, or how are roommates selected?
Sure. So some schools across the country will do roommate inventories, will do a lot of these other pieces to kind of room people together. We have opted not to do any of those for a variety of different reasons. One, typically students aren't always being the most honest when they're filling out those questionnaires of like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to sleep at 9 p.m. every day. You may do that in high school, but college may be a little bit different, right? Or there may be folks hovering over them when they're filling it out, or X, Y, and Z reasons. So for us, we have done away with those. So we, in the housing application, will ask you 2 or 3 very simple questions, and we are just about random in the way that we appear and assign roommates.
Okay, thank you. And then another student was asking, how can we apply to bring our emotional support animal, and which residence halls allow that?
Sure. In order for you to do that, you need to work with our Kakua office. So that is our disability office on campus. I would encourage you to make contact with them pretty soon, i.e. now, in order to make sure everything gets squared away before you arrive on campus. If you have an ESA, you're able to go into any residence hall. But again, you must have prior approval from Kakua to have your animal on campus. So if you don't have approval when you move in, your animal cannot come into the residence hall.
Got it. And then are there any housing options available for a couple with a kid where only one person is a student?
Absolutely. So we do have family housing as well. So that is something that we do offer. So housing for students is not a 1 year and you're out kind of an option as it is in many other places. So we do have students who will live with us their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, or even students with families, graduate students. So you can absolutely look on our website. It's called family housing, and you can certainly have your own apartment where you can have your partner and your child living on campus with you.
Thank you. And then are there laundry facilities in each residence hall?
Yes, we have laundry facilities in every hall. As I mentioned, it could be on the roof, it could be on the basement, but we do have them in every building. You do not have to use quarters or cash as the old way that we used to do things. So now there is an app that you can put on your phone and just add money onto it, similar to a app of any sort, and you can pay that way.
And then are students that attend a community college like KCC able to apply for our housing at the Manoa campus?
If you attend KCC, Leeward, any of the community colleges, you are absolutely able to live on campus. There is a requirement that during one academic year, you must take a class on the Manoa campus. But I would certainly say apply, and then you can work out those specific details with our assignments office.
Thank you. And then 2 questions about storing surfboards. Is there any surfboard storage at the residence halls? And do you know if the campus offers rental boards?
So yes to both of those. So we do offer very limited storage for surfboards. So we do have, it's called the Freer Hall Bike Cage. It's right outside of Freer. It's a bike cage, so very cleverly named, where you can request to store your items there. Some students will also bring, if they're shorter boards, skin boards, things like that, we'll bring them into the residence hall. But the only kind of rule for us there is that the surfboard must not prevent you from exiting or entering the space at any point in time. So that is one of the caveats to that.
Thank you. I do see a few questions regarding COVID and the vaccination.
Sure.
So currently at the campus itself, we do allow religious and medical exemptions. If you have any questions in regarding your vaccines or anything like that, definitely reach out to our health center, our health student services. They can answer any of your questions regarding what vaccines are necessary for our campus. As Kenny knows too, everything is changing right now in the state of Hawaii. So what we are saying now could change by the time move-in starts. So just check our website for updates, as well as you'll probably be emailed if there are any large updates. But what we're saying now is what's currently here. There may be changes by the time fall hits. So again, any COVID questions, please go to our website or speak with our university health services so they can help you with that. So moving on back to housing. I saw about the support animal. Again, Kenny covered that one. Our athletics teams house together.
So you typically, under NCAA rules, you can't house all athletes in one community, but your roommate will typically be one of your teammates. So if you're on the beach volleyball team, as an example, your roommate will more than likely be another beach volleyball player. Similar, because you have similar schedules and all that. So the compatibility will be there, but that is a typical practice for us. Yes.
Perfect. And very specific question: is there carpet or tile flooring in the towers?
Tile.
Yeah, it looks
Sorry,
like
I had to go back to thinking of, like, it's been a few days since I've been in there, so tile.
Thank you. And then as an international student, how early before classes would you recommend arriving?
So our moving days are Tuesday, August 16th and Friday, August 19th. So I would encourage you to work as an international student. You're going to be working with International Student Services, ISS. You're going to be working with MIX as the Manoa International Exchange Program with a variety of different offices. So I would encourage folks to certainly work with them to see how early you need to come to get all of your federally required paperwork in line before coming to campus. In terms of housing, those are our 2 move-in days, that Tuesday and that Friday. And from the moment you come to campus and get moved in, we will have a pretty set schedule for you on different activities and different events that you need to attend to get you ready for the start of the academic semester that following Monday.
Thank you. And then another student asked, do we have a better chance of getting our first choice housing if we turn in our application earlier?
Yes. So we will always go based off priority. So as I mentioned earlier, we do that ranking system. So you will go to the top, because we will always use the date that you submitted your deposit as kind of that metric to determine kind of how we go about it.
If you already applied to student housing but have now been accepted into the honors program, do we need to call or email to make a change for honors housing, or will we be applied into that automatically?
You will not be applied automatically, so I would encourage you to reach out via email to us, and it's to come from your Hawaii email address. And I will put the email here in the chat for everyone to see, where you can email us one of two places, and we can certainly make that adjustment to your application so that we can make sure that we know that you're interested in living in the RLP.
Okay. Roommate issues. A few questions on that. If you do not get along with your roommate, are you allowed to switch roommates? And how are roommate issues resolved during the semester?
Sure. So yes, to that question, you are absolutely allowed to move. So I think the first thing on that note is we will never say your roommate has to move if there's an issue. You can opt to move, and we will certainly support you and encourage you and help you with whatever that looks like. The first thing that's really important is for you to let someone from housing know that you have an issue with your roommate. Our staff are very well versed and trained on how to help navigate and have roommate conflicts, roommate mediations, pardon, that's what I was looking for, on how to work with two roommates. The typical issue is that people are just not communicating and the issues have built up. So our staff will sit down with folks and have that conversation. If at the end of the conversation, we're like, you know what, these folks are just not going to see eye to eye, and one of them wants to transfer to a different hall, we can absolutely accommodate that.
Thank you. And then a question we get often, is there parking places for freshmen?
Sure. So there is very, very, very limited parking on campus as a collective. Secondly, parking is given based off of seniority and priority when you register for classes. As a result, freshmen will probably not get a parking pass on campus. I encourage folks to please not bring their cars. It is, one, not cheap, and two, you don't always want to park your car out in the street and have to move it when the sweeper comes by and all of those other pieces. So I encourage folks to use the U-Pass. It's part of your fees already associated with being a student here. It's a sticker that you get on your ID, you show it to the bus driver, and you're able to take the bus to pretty much anywhere on Oahu. So that's certainly one of the best ways to get around. And even if you are really need your own transportation, I would suggest a moped over a car pretty comfortably.
And this is also along the lines of parking. If they have a moped, is there moped storage or parking near the residence halls?
Sure, there is. There is more parking near the residence halls. Again, I just very much encourage you to get a good lock and always lock it to a sturdy object, not just to itself. Unfortunately, moped theft is fairly common because, again, students are just not locking them or not locking them to a secure bike storage spot on campus.
Great. Then a few other questions about getting a room. Do we have to pay the deposit before we apply for housing?
No. So once the application for housing is a $25 application fee. Once you have received your contract, you will have that 2 weeks to pay your deposit, which is $400. $100 of that is a security deposit. The other $300 would go towards your overall balance.
Good. As a first-year student coming in from a gap year, is it recommended or more common for you to stay with your age group or with incoming freshmen?
If you took a gap year, you unfortunately will not be able to come in with freshmen because we, again, use the year that you graduated high school as to determine if you're a freshman or not. So in this case, if you graduated high school 2022, you will be considered a freshman. If you graduated 21 or prior, you will be considered a sophomore or above in this case. So in that case, I would encourage you potentially to do one of our mixed communities, a Gateway, Johnson, Freer as an example, to get a few years under your belt and then move over to the apartment if that's something that you're interested in.
Perfect. And then how do we sign up for a move-in day or time? And is there a limit to how many people can help us move in?
Sure. So once you have been contracted, once your deposit has been accepted and all of that stuff is good, you will receive an email from our office that essentially invites you to sign up for a move-in time. There will be 1 hour blocks of time in order, again, we just want to make sure to ensure some physical distancing between folks and making sure that we're ready to go for everyone when they come to campus. So you'll be able to get that then. There was a second part to that question.
How many people can help us?
How many helpers? Yep.
Yeah.
So currently, again, we are talking March 23rd. Every person is allowed 4 guests. So the student plus 4. that could change between now and the time August rolls around. Hopefully we have no more regulations on numbers and people can just go. But right now that is our number.
Thank you. And then if a student has a specific disability that requires a single residence hall room, should they contact you first or the disability center?
They should go to Kakua first. Kakua will work directly with us to let us know Kristen needs a single because of an approved medical accommodation. So we will ensure that Kristen gets a single as required.
That's good. Other questions? Can students bring rugs in their room too? Are those allowed?
Absolutely. You can absolutely do it up in your room, get rugs, bean bags, all of that stuff. That's absolutely allowed.
And is there any item that you recommend students bring that is normally overlooked or forgotten that might be super helpful for them to bring?
That's a good one. Not really. I mean, I think rugs are certainly a really good one because I think it makes your space feel a little homier. Additional seating. So Papa-san chairs were big at one point. Bean bags right now. Some of the inflatable little bean bags are really cool. So there's a variety of different options. So I think that's certainly something that is nice that students typically will go out and purchase or we see being delivered here to the residence halls once the students move on to campus.
Thank you. More back to laundry. Can you tell us about the laundry facilities? Are they open 24 hours? Do students supply their own detergent? How much is the wash and dry, if you know that offhand? And can you buy a prepaid coin card or is it coin operated?
Sure. So laundry facilities are open 24/7. Some of them are locked by locks, and you just use your key to get into the facility. So they are available to students 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are not coin operated, so you just get an app. So for students with smartphones, you can just download an app. It's called the Wash app, very creatively named. Wash is $2, dry is $1.50. And it's pretty cool because it will tell you how many washers and dryers are available in your laundry room. It will give you a countdown time for when your stuff is done, things like that, which is pretty neat. Students must supply their own laundry detergent, dryer sheets, all of that stuff.
Great, thank you. Another question I received, do a lot of students tend to live off campus, or also why do more students live off campus, which I don't know the correct answer, so I'll defer to you.
Yep. So we house about, at full occupancy, it's about 4,000 students live on campus with us. I think when folks look at 4,000 versus 13,000 who go to school here, they're like, well, that's a lot of people who live off. We also need to understand that a lot of those people are also local students who just live at home. We also have a lot of folks who live here who are living in multi-generational homes, have family responsibilities, have a lot of those other components, which is why they may choose to live off or may come to campus for 1 year and live off their second, third, or fourth year. As students typically get higher up in their classes, may have to do internships, externships, or have jobs off campus. So that is one of the reasons why more folks do live off. During COVID, our numbers did dwindle quite a bit because we were regulated by the CDC on this number of capacity and spaces and things like that. But our residence halls have been pretty full in terms of occupancy for the past 8 to 9 years. So we are doing really well with it. And students do choose to live with us for at least 2 years, typically before moving off.
Great. We do have about 10 minutes, so I will try to get to as many questions as possible. But again, if we don't get to your question today, feel free to reach out to us at one of our events or one of our student tours, as well as just contact us via our contact information on the screen. Someone did let me know that I put the housing and financial aid emails. I switched them. Sorry, I adjusted them right before we went on. So our housing website is reslife@hawaii.edu. That's the housing email, and the financial aid email is finaid@hawaii.edu. So they're just right next to each other. So back to our questions. How do we let our tower know that we're sending packages in ahead of move-in time, and would we send them to the address of that specific tower?
We have a centralized mail room, so you can mail any packages to campus. So all mail, regardless of what address you put, will come to one location. We have a system called Notify that once we get your package, we will log it into a system and it will send you an email letting you know that the package is here for you to pick up. The only caveat to that is please, please, please make sure that you're sending items under your student's legal name. We don't know who Pookie is. So sometimes we will have to RTS or return that to sender or just hold that item until somebody comes to claim it. So it's very important that please that student's full name is listed on their package.
Great. Do both roommates have to move in on the same day or will they have separate move-in dates?
So because of the communities and how they're going, most roommates will move in on the same day, but it does not have to be the same hour. So folks can move in at any hour that is more easily accommodated into their schedule.
Thank you. And good question here. Is there communal cleaning supplies like brooms, dustpans, mops students can use?
So some of those like more universally used things like that, yes, we do have those at our community desks that students can go and borrow. When it comes to like disinfecting spray, things like that, students will have to buy that themselves, but like a broom, a dustpan, vacuum, things like that, yes.
Thank you. And are visitors allowed on campus and what are the specific hours? Again, I know this information may change by the time school starts in the fall, but currently.
Yeah, as of today, as we mentioned, so we are not allowed to have guests come into the residence halls as of today. So you are certainly able to come to campus and tour campus. Anyone coming to campus today is required to do the Lumi site, which is essentially a very quick health screen that says that you are in good health to be on campus. That is going to go away in the next few days. But again, as we mentioned, and we know things could come back. So it is important that folks be up to speed on what those look like. But as of today, no outside guests are allowed into any residence hall.
Right. Another cool question here. Does your roommate have to be the same gender?
They do, with the exception of our Rainbow Village. That is a community where gender is not taken into account. You signed an additional addendum of what that looks like and why you're choosing to be a part of that community. That is the only place that we can have gender non-binary or mixed gendered folks living together.
Perfect. Thank you. And then if a student already applied for housing, should they have received any emails from your office yet? Okay.
No communication will be done until after May 1st.
So don't worry if you have not received a response yet.
Yes.
There are thousands of people Kenny has to respond to.
Yes, after May 1st, please, yes.
Yes. So can students use wallpaper in the residence halls?
I've never seen it. I would probably say no because it could damage the walls in some capacity. So I would encourage folks to probably not. If you want to do like squares of like decorative stuff, you can put those up. That's certainly much better than wallpaper because they could. I'm certainly not that type of person who knows about wallpaper, so I don't know, but I just don't want anything to damage the walls and then people get charged for that. So.
And then safety in the residence halls.
Sure.
How's that?
Sure. I thought you were going to add more to that.
Yeah.
Safety in our residence halls is obviously one of our main priorities. So first, let me say that we are in a large metropolitan city that does not have a bubble around it. So I think that's very important to highlight. So we do have people coming in and out of campus, on and off campus. In order to go into any residence hall, you are required to have a key. So you dip the key to go into the building. Again, dip the key to go up either the stairwell or the elevators. Again, to go into your room and then to the restroom, things like that. So we have a lot of measures in place for safety and security. There is a lot more students than there are staff. So we encourage that same motto of the airport, you see something, say something. If someone looks a little odd age-wise, right? If going into the Hawai'i Aloha Towers, I'm certainly not 18. So I've had students be like, do you live here? I'm like, I don't live here, but I'm staffing. Here's my ID badge, right? That's absolutely appropriate. Absolutely what we want students to do. Take that responsibility of the safety and responsibility of just their community space. We do have our Department of Public Safety that does work with us to do monitor the exterior of our communities. We also do work very closely with the Honolulu Police Department if we ever were to need them assistance for anything on campus. So campus is safe, but as large metropolitan place, we do have crime that does happen on campus, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we live in it's a very, I think, nice area of the island, so I feel pretty safe here. I also live near the university as well. Storage for summer, how do we store our items?
Sure. So the majority of our students will choose not to take larger items with them back to the mainland or to the continent. So we will, the students can work with storage companies that are located around Manoa or even Oahu to get a storage unit for the summer. Typically we'll work with roommates or people who will live on the same floor with them to do that on campus. So it's a very common thing to do. The storage companies work very, very closely and very well with our students.
Thank you. Let me just look at our questions. Sorry, I'm bouncing around everyone. I'm trying to get to all the questions. If a student is in residential housing, are they still able to move rooms?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And is payment required upfront for the year?
No, it is not.
Great. So for students that are moving in, when do you recommend they arrive to make sure they have time to shop for things?
And that is absolutely up to people's comfort level. We know that flights are difficult to sometimes balance and plan out. So we will have move-in window from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. as an example, that entire day. So whatever really works for students, we encourage folks to do, because you can also obviously check your student in on day one and then do some of that lighter shopping on day 2 and day 3, so on and so forth, when you know what they need in the residence hall. I would encourage that, especially because we also do have much lower sales tax in a lot of other places in the continent, for example. So I would encourage folks to, once they get here, figure out what they need and then buy it on island.
Thank you. So we'll get to our last 2 questions because we are running out of time. Do we need to reapply for housing every year?
You do. It is a much easier process. It's called our renewal process. Essentially, it just says giving yourself squatter rights to a different space. So you just go through that process, but it is a very simple process, yes.
Great. And another student was asking, are we only allowed to apply for housing after we accept our admissions, or I guess pay your tuition deposit, or can we put down our deposit before we confirm our acceptance?
It's the first one. So you must confirm to Manoa and do that before you can apply for housing.
Great. So we did have a lot of questions today. Unfortunately, we're not able to get to everyone's questions. So feel free, if you do have any questions you'd like still answered, to reach out to us. We have our housing email here, financial aid if you're concerned about costs. We offer our university health services for any questions about our vaccines or immunizations that are needed. And you feel free to also reach out to our admissions office too. Our information is on the screen. I know some of you just have some general admissions questions. Our housing office will also be present at the accepted student receptions for students that decided to go there, as well as our Manoa experience, if any of you will be here April 6th. So we do have a lot of different opportunities for you to still meet with our housing staff, our financial aid staff, admissions, at all these other events. So again, if you haven't been able to get your question answered today, feel free to reach out to us via our information on the screen or talk with us at one of our events. Thank you all for joining today. I'm so glad that we were able to get to so many different questions today. Thank you again for joining, and then please contact us if you have any other questions. I look forward to seeing you guys at the next webinar where we have our parent Q&A. So we'll be able to talk to your parents and answer their questions as well. Thank you guys.